If you're a fan of golf, or at least its history, you know the big three. Even if you're not a golf fan or aren't familiar with the term, you know their names. Arnold Palmer, Jack Nicklaus, Gary Player. Three generational talents who came together in sports' second golden age to electrify fans and make golf a popular spectator and television pastime. But like any other golf group, there was a fourth. Don't take my word for it. Take theirs. From the forward of the Big Three and Me, a biography, quote, "There was another player who was winning as often as we were, a player we kept an eye on and worried about just as much, if not more than each other. It could have been the Big Four." This is what you don't know about Golf Hall of Famer Billy Casper. Welcome to What You Don't Know About Sports, where we delve into the forgotten stories, teams, and athletes of sports history and question widely held takes on today's sports. I'm Matt, and this is Blake.
Howdy, folks.
And today, we have definitely found a forgotten player in golf's Billy Casper. Blake, before we get started, who is your favorite kind of overshadowed great?
If you're new here, one of our favorite things to do is to find these sorts of people and talk about them because history tends to forget. So we tend to search for these sorts of people. I will say that probably the greatest all-around athlete that no one remembers because it was so long ago was Jim Thorpe. We covered him. Go back and take a listen to that. But if I don't want to plug every episode we ever did, I would say for basketball, probably a Tim Duncan or a Moses Malone, who just it either happened so long ago people forgot, or they did it so quietly that no one thinks about it. For football, my thought is Frank Gore, who is a top 5 at least in career rushing yards in NFL history, or a Matt Ryan, who just recently changed teams. I would have said Matthew Stafford, I think would have been my first choice, but he just won. So I don't know that counts anymore. But Matt Ryan not winning a Super Bowl, but he's probably top 10 in career passing yards. I mean, he's or close, if not. So, baseball has too many people. I don't know. Baseball's got too many choices. I can't think of a baseball player, but those would be my few.
Yeah, I like that. The Tim Duncan answer is actually pretty analogous to what we're looking at today. And then I think in hockey, somebody like Ron Francis is top 5 in points, but played in the same era with Wayne Gretzky, and then with a Jaromir Jagr and some other guys that were young. So I don't think he gets the credit he deserves in hockey circles. But Tim Duncan, I think, is a good answer because he's overshadowed by people in his era. But we all sit around and say Tim Duncan's the best power forward of all time. And then we go back to talking about Kobe or LeBron or somebody else, right? And it's but Tim Duncan was the greatest power forward of all time, right?
Yeah, that's definitely a problem. But for the hockey thing, you made me think. Ron Francis won one Stanley Cup, and it's funny to think that again, history just forgets these people, and so we forget about the ones who didn't win a bunch of titles. And so I wonder if Ovechkin, somebody like Ovechkin, who's only got one, will be forgotten, or since he's scored so much, he's going to be high on the points list too, but his is going to be goals, not assists. So it might be seen differently for that reason. I don't know.
Well, I think think being a never mind. I wasn't going to say what I was going to say. Um, the the base the baseball answer is if you're not a Yankees fan, then Derek Jeter's the most overshadowed baseball player of all time.
You mean
For
overrated baseball player? According to
right,
Twitter,
which is
this is
which
not
is
me. This is Twitter talking. Because man, have I gotten that before.
yeah, which is why he's overshadowed for 29 of the 30 fan bases in baseball. So on to our story for today. Billy Casper was born June 24th, 1931 in San Diego, California. His upbringing matches many of the stories we've heard throughout this series. His parents were said to be indifferent to him, not cruel to him, not mean to him, but just indifferent. In his own words, I don't remember my parents ever giving me a dime. And obviously, they were feeding him. They had a place to stay. He had clothes on. That's not what he meant, I don't think. But his parents would divorce when he was 12. His father would leave his life for decades when he was at the age of 15. When his mother got remarried, he lived with an aunt and some friends in the Chula Vista area rather than move with her. And so a tough upbringing, but it was his father and one of his uncles that introduced him to the game of golf. And he said in one of his biographies that the only time he felt close to his father was when they were playing golf. And because of that, maybe connection, he spent his youth being a caddy at the San Diego Country Club. He just hung out there, carried the bags, made an impression on everybody. So much so that the club members actually collected some money and paid for him to get lessons from the club pro. So it wasn't necessarily his parents. It was these other people who were saying, look, you're a good dude. We like you carrying our bags. You're young. You need to get better at this game of golf. Here, go take lessons. And they paid for him, which, good on them. He also said while he was at San Diego Country Club, he was too lazy to go out and hit balls like many of us. I know not like you. We got some other friends that like to go to the range all the time, but I do not. And so, Billy Casper, I'm with you on this one. He says he's too lazy to go out and hit balls. Instead, he just stuck around the practice area, chipping, putting, and hitting sand shots at all times of the day and night, apparently. Just after dark, just kept hitting shots.
your comment made me laugh because I think one time I have seen Matt on a driving range at a golf course. Outside of that, I have never heard of him visiting one. The last time we played golf, he showed up about 5 minutes before our tee time started. And he threw his hat on and just jumped in the cart, and we went on our way. And so he's definitely right. I'm there way too early. I practice too much on the putting greens and screws up the round. But anyway, but back to Casper. It takes a village. That's another theme that seems to come up in a lot of these. Is like it's almost never just mom and dad take care of everything for everybody. It's either you got a ton of siblings that help you out, or you've got a great coach. You've got somebody that sees something in you. You got a gift, something along those lines that always seems to help people in these sorts of circumstances when they're kind of underrated, under remembered. And so it's just interesting that he is going through this too, and I wish I had thought about it when I was little, but I would have loved to be a caddy and like work at a golf course when I was little. Like, how cool would that have been?
Yeah, as long as I wasn't carrying bags, that would have been cool. I don't want to.
It's a workout. It's like exercise.
Sure, absolutely. That's always fun. So that would have been. I mean, yeah, you would. I mean, you definitely would learn some stuff about the game that maybe you wouldn't pick up till later that way. So yeah. And that's what happened for Billy Casper. While he was in San Diego, he also met his future wife, Shirley. And once he started playing golf competitively, he regularly competed against an amateur at the time named Gene Littler, who was from the San Diego area and who Casper described as being better than him and usually beating him during their amateur days. Like the guy that just always had just an edge and a leg up on him kind of everywhere he turned. He turned his golfing into a cup of coffee at Notre Dame. I say that because he lasted about a year before he joined the Navy. Now, he was there playing golf at Notre Dame, but he backed out and joined the Navy instead for a 4-year enlistment. Now, I couldn't find much about his time in the Navy, but I did find that he was stationed in San Diego, so he got to stay home. And whatever he was doing in the Navy, he essentially was able to continue honing his golf game while he was enlisted. So much so that when he got out in 1954, he also turned pro on the PGA Tour the same year. So he didn't fall off while he was in the Navy. So I'm not sure.
Go ahead.
Not sure what his job was, but he came out a professional golfer. So there you go.
Dang.
Yeah. He did say of his childhood, and this is kind of a profound quote. We don't wax poetic very often on the show about like how sport imitates life and all this stuff. But he makes an analogy here that I think is just cool. He said of his childhood, quote, I've come to grips with that, and it never really was a force in my life that bothered me. I learned something very important early on. You accept what happens and move on. In other words, if I hit a bad shot, I can't change it. There's only the next shot. That was a big lesson. That is a sport imitating life situation. Golf does that frequently. You get a piece of bad luck. Something doesn't work out the way you think it's going to, and there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, some people do. You just drop another ball and hit it. You don't count the shot, whatever. But really, there's nothing you can do about it. You just got to play it where it lies and hit the next one and make the best of it. I think that's an interesting outlook on life.
Definitely in sports, and the best athletes, the best professional athletes think that way. Like you miss a shot in basketball, like you can't go back and retake it. Like you just got to make the next one. Or you strike out on the plate and like can't go back and hit that ball. You just got to prepare yourself for the next one. Same thing in life. So whatever. I'm glad he's thinking about it that way, and it probably helped him. Probably helped him a lot getting through what he went through with his parents and when he was younger, and his golf game. Because very few, like that's a rare feat for you to be able to go through a professional playing sports professionally, and you go through all your career with that mindset. Like people say they have it, not everybody does. So that's served him well, clearly.
Absolutely. In his first 2 years on tour, he did not win, but he did make a lot of cuts. So he was earning a lot of money on tour, just hanging around toward the middle and bottom of the standings, just no wins. But he spent the winter between 1955 and 1956 learning a new high fade that would somehow get the nickname the Gorilla Drive. Don't know how that ends up being a thing, but here we go. He again admits that during this time, he did not like to hit balls and that he hit more balls in that time, that one winter, than he ever hit in his whole life. Like this was the one time he was at the range trying to really hone in on what he was doing. And it worked out for him because he won for the first time in 1956 and did not stop winning until 1971. This was a 16-year streak that is second all-time only to Arnold Palmer, it's easy for you to say, and Jack Nicklaus's 17-year streaks. So he was 1 year off just from fixing a draw. Just let me learn a draw and then never hit another practice shot again.
If only that happened for the rest of us.
That's right. Just spend one hard month and then nothing ever needs practice again.
Yeah.
His game during this time was considered rigid and routine. He had an affinity for Ben Hogan. We were talking about like his mental approach to the game. Hogan was often described as being like in a hypnotic trance when he was playing, like he was so focused on what was going on. And Casper tried to model his game after that and successfully did so. He developed a pre-shot routine that was the same for every shot. You know, that's, I think, something they tell all new golfers now is to get into a routine before you hit your shot, whatever it is, you gotta do it frequently. Some people's routines just go on too long, but I mean, you got to have one. He was one of the first pros to do that. And a competitor said, because of this kind of just like routine, everything is the same all the time. A competitor remarked that, quote, he gave you this terrible feeling that he was never going to make a mistake. And then, of course, he drive that stake through your heart with his putter. It was a very efficient operation. Another competitor said there was no excess in his game, nothing that didn't work. That Leonardo da Vinci quote, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication should be Billy Casper's epitaph. So
Dang.
just like a machine, like a robot that just goes out repetitively, just putting balls where he wants to. And the thing that I found interesting is that he did not, right? So as a child and as an adult, he does not like to hit practice shots. He just wants to putt and chip and hit sand shots. His short game, particularly his putting, everywhere I found, it did not say he was one of the best putters all time. It just said he was the best putter of all time. Like, he doesn't get a qualifier of any kind on the World Golf Hall of Fame write up for him or in several articles and books about him. It just says, yeah, he's the best putter. And then it moves on. And it's like, hold on. We mean that he's like one of the top 10, top 5. Nope, just he's the best. This guy is the best putter in the world ever. And so you just got to take it. Got to take it at face value there, right?
Sure. I wasn't there. What do I know?
What do I know? I didn't see him. The 16-year streak that he went on is evidence of the mindset and the steady nature of his game. But the win totals each of those years are. So just bear with me for a second. In 1956, he won one time. Then he won twice. Then he won 3 times. By 1959, he won 4. 1960, he won 3. 1961, it was down to 1. Then 4 wins, 2 wins, 4 wins, 5 wins, 4 wins, 2 wins, 6 wins, 4 wins, 1 win. There's only 3 years in that stretch, the first and the last, and then one in the middle, that he won once. And like most of the years, he's winning 3 or 4 times, just filling the stat sheet, just showing up and winning on a regular basis. If it wasn't for the fact that he lost a playoff in 1972, he would have won in 72. He won 2 more times in 1973. That one playoff loss on the first hole of a playoff is the difference between him having a 16-year stretch and him having the record at 18 years in a row. He is just methodical.
Jeez. Yeah, that's you don't come across professional athletes. Like, a lot of professional athletes do their thing because I mean, not to say that they don't work hard, but like it's mental. Like, I feel like so much of this is mental, to like win once and then not let it bother you and just go on to the next one, not showing up the next week thinking that you're owed something because you won the week before. Like a Scotty Scheffler at the beginning of this PGA season kind of thing. He's just not going to stop. Like, it just doesn't seem like he's going to stop. He's like this, not quite a robot, but pretty freaking close. But very few people have this mindset where, like, they're just willing to show up and, like, winning once isn't okay. Like, I'm going to continuously put out my best effort every single time. And that makes him special.
I think so. And all told, he wins 51 times. He came back in 1975 and won 2 more times to put his all-time win total in the PGA Tour at 51, which is good for 7th on the all-time list. Even today, he sits 7th all-time. When he retired, he was higher than that at the time. But, you know, Tiger had to do his thing.
He was here.
So now, this is not going to be as hard as it sounded like when I came up with the question for you. So it's time to stump the Sykes. That's what we're going to do.
Okay.
You know that Billy Casper is 7th all time. I'm going to give you 6th all time was Byron Nelson, who has a tournament named after him to help us remember who he is. Who are the top 5 all-time leaders in PGA Tour wins?
Does it have to be in order?
It does not have to be in order.
I don't know that I could get that. There's wait. Okay, so 7 is Casper, 6 is Nelson.
That is correct.
Okay. I'm gonna throw a few names, and then I might need some help on 1 or 2. This is all-time wins, all wins, not just majors.
All-time wins, correct? Yeah,
All-time wins.
Any PGA Tour event.
Okay. Woods is up there. Tiger Woods is up there.
Tiger Woods is T1, yes.
T1. Shoot. Okay.
He has 82, by the way. 82.
82. Okay. Tied for first. Nicklaus is up there.
Jack Nicklaus is up there. He is 3rd with 73 wins.
3rd. So that's a T1 and a 3rd. Who is 4th? 4th and 5th. I said Nicklaus, so I'm going to go with Palmer.
Arnold Palmer is
there.
5th with 62 wins.
Okay, so 1st and 4th. Tied for 1st and 4th.
You are missing, tied for 1st and 4th.
So this is going to go, this is like way back in history, lesser known. How do I narrow that down? You said Nelson has a tournament named after him.
Yes.
When did they play? Like what years did their careers span?
So they are contemporaries with each other. They both were born in 1912. They won between the years. The guy in first place won between 1936 and 1965. The man in 4th place won between 1938 and 1959.
Jeez.
I've said one of their names in this episode.
What if I wasn't paying attention? I'm just kidding.
It's definitely possible.
Just kidding. Just kidding. Okay, so who did you mention? Hogan.
Ben Hogan. Not Hulk Hogan. Ben Hogan is 4th with 64 wins. So you're just missing the other guy with 82.
See, every time I say this, and I truly believe it, there is someone on the other end of this who's listening, just screaming. It's like the Wheel of Fortune when you're like watching from home, and it's a lot easier when like you're not being asked.
It would be me that was screaming at the radio right now.
Okay, let me think. See, he doesn't have a team. So that's normally how it, like, I can think of a person, like I can think of a team sport athlete like on a team or something like that. Individuals are so unique. Let me think.
Yeah, this is going to be hard for you if you don't know right offhand. I can give you a hint if you can't think of a question.
Go, yeah, give me.
Okay,
I'm gonna like smack myself in the forehead when I get it.
He has an alliterative name, so both names start with the same letter.
Ah!
Literally just fell out of his chair, ladies and gentlemen.
I almost just want to like sound his name out. I'm trying to sound it out in my head because like I think I have the letter,
Good.
and I'm just trying to come up with his
You could. They're both one syllable, so you could just sound it out. You could get close.
Sneed.
Yeah,
Is that it?
it's
What I
Sam
can't.
Snead.
Sam Sneed. Oh my god.
Sam Snead is the current tied for first all time leader in
See,
PGA Tour wins.
why are we
with
talking about
82.
him?
82. Sam Snead.
Maybe I'm just not talking about him. Why did that take so long? Jesus.
So yeah, Snead first with 82, tied with Tiger. Then Nicklaus is in third with 73. Hogan with 64. Palmer with 62. Byron Nelson with 52. And then our man Billy Casper at 51. So, hey, you got it. You made it.
Jeez. I almost did fall out of my chair.
Sam Snead. Sam Snead is hard to remember sometimes. Not because he
Snead.
wasn't an all-time great, but because it's hard to remember things in order, maybe.
Just under the radar sometimes. Because they only talk about like 3 of them.
Yeah.
They only talk about 3 or 4 or 5 all time, and then you got to remember the rest.
So we know Billy Casper was 7th on the list. So the guys all ahead of him are big names. They're somewhat recognizable. So the question is, how did Billy Casper end up not being recognizable in an era, like I said, like the second golden age of sports? It's like sports are growing. They're getting to be on TV. They're showing up in newspapers all over the place. How is he not as famous as his contemporaries? And there's a little bit of nefariousness involved in why he is not. He won his first major at the U.S. Open in 1959 and was shortly afterwards asked to become a client of Mark McCormick, who was a former golfer and current lawyer who was creating one of the first sports agencies. That sports agency that he formed has come to be known as IMG, which is one of the biggest sports and celebrity agencies in the world, and had gotten off to a pretty big start already. Palmer and Gary Player were already his clients at that point. Jack Nicklaus would sign on shortly after. And to his credit, Billy Casper agreed as well. But after a few years, he backed out and went with one of McCormick's former partners because of how uncomfortable he was with McCormick and IMG's practices. It said that they were very shrewd, very kind of underhanded at times, very aggressive. And it just wasn't something Casper, who had found Mormonism, decided he wanted to be a part of. And so he left and went with one of McCormick's former partners. I'm not sure if him leaving would have been so bad, right? But he's leaving with somebody who'd already left McCormick. That upset McCormick to the point where they did not make up, apparently, until 1999. They happened to be on a cruise together and met up and talked about it. But before that, nothing.
A whole lifetime went by. Jeez.
Yeah, this upset McCormick to the point where he cut him out of deals and endorsements intentionally. Like, he used his influence to push Casper to the side, often telling people, like, why do you need him? Quote, we already have 3. Why do we need Casper, right? So I can get you Nicklaus, I can get you Player, I can get you Palmer. You don't need anybody else, right? So I get what he's doing there. One thing about McCormick, I didn't know this. We're not going to do a McCormick episode, right? But he started publishing a annual every year about the year in golf, where he had the McCormick golf rankings. His ranking formula became the official world golf rankings that we still use today. So McCormick is an influential man. He's got 2 awards named after him. One goes to the leading amateur after the U.S. and British amateurs are played. And then one goes to the pro who spent the most weeks at number 1 in a given calendar year. They get the McCormick Award. So He's also in the World Golf Hall of Fame, which is not bad for a failed golfer.
I suck at golf. Let me find another way in.
Yeah. And he did. He did.
Wow.
To Billy Casper's detriment, however, because he didn't get
Yeah.
some of the credit that he deserves. It actually mentions on his World Golf Hall of Fame write-up, and I noticed it in researching the episode, that he gets more at the time and now. People talk more about the fact that he converted to Mormonism. At one point in the 50s and 60s, he figured out that he had allergies to certain things. And when he figured that out, he started taking some allergy medicine and changed his diet to include stuff like buffalo and bear steaks and organic vegetables, which is like a thing now to
Shocker.
manage. Yeah. To manage the allergies. He lost 70 pounds during that time frame. He was kind of a heftier guy, cut down to like in the 160s. For a play-in weight. He had 11 children, 6 of which were adopted. And maybe that was kind of part of the upbringing thing too. Maybe he didn't get fully past it. But all of those things tended to get reported more than the rest. And even when you find an article that's talking about how good he was from the time period, it mentions one of those things. And so it just seems like, not that it's a way to minimize him, but it seems like maybe he's treated as this wacky, look at this dude, instead of an all-time great athlete, right?
So my first thought when you said, look at this wacky dude, was the way people talk about Kyrie Irving today.
Yeah, but he deserves that.
I mean, he might be nuts. He might be nuts. But dude is probably one of the greatest basketball handlers like in the history of the game. Like, you cannot deny how good he is at basketball. He'll take 2 weeks off and then drop 60 in Milwaukee. Like he just with the current stuff going on, like he couldn't play at home, and then he'd just go on the road and just shred people. Like, not in a rhythm, doesn't need to be in a rhythm, doesn't need to be hot, doesn't need to. He just shows up and balls. Like, he does not care if you like him. He comes to do his job whenever they let him, anyway. But that's a different conversation. But yeah, it's a similar thing. Is like he's built different.
It is. Yeah, it doesn't matter where Kyrie is; he'll play well. He doesn't even have to be on a round earth to do it. He just can show up and win. Yeah, forget all the current stuff. I'm still stuck on the fact that the world's not. Yeah, there's something to this flat Earth thing.
Do your research, dude.
And if we got any flat Earthers out there, it's okay. Just contact us. We'll talk to you about it. Be cool. The two major wins after 1959 that Billy Casper had also are going to be significant evidence of his greatness and his just ability to be steady all the time, because both of them are pretty impressive stories. The second major win of his career was the 1966 U.S. Open, and he spent that tournament essentially head-to-head against Arnold Palmer, one of the big three. The tournament was in San Francisco at Olympic Country Club, so not far from, where he was born and where he spent a lot of his life. He drove into San Francisco every day from outside the city, like a significant distance outside the city. He was staying with a Mormon priest in the area and would drive into town, which again was another way for the press, like you were just talking about, another way for the press to kind of like needle him and talk about how wacky this guy is. The two were tied after Saturday, so they were in the last group on Sunday, but Palmer took a 3-shot lead into that final round. At the turn on Sunday, Arnold Palmer was up 7 shots.
Jeez.
7 shots. But came in at a 39 to Casper's 32. He came in +4. Casper came in 3 under to send it to an 18-hole playoff. Casper's 3 under finish is incredible in that those 9 holes, he was 3 under. That matched his lowest score to par at any point during the entire event. This was a very high scoring major. During the 18-hole playoff, he again trailed by as many as 2 shots after the 11th hole. But on 12, he eagled while Palmer bogeyed, and then he took the lead on 13 and never trailed again in winning his second U.S. Open and second major. He finished the back 9 at -4 over the last 2 days to Palmer's +7. He just finished the event. Palmer did not, and he did. He just kept showing up, hitting shots, hitting putts, not wavering when Palmer did, and he ran him down twice.
Can we talk about how crazy the thought of an 18-hole playoff is? The fact that
the way golf should be.
Instead of just a 1-hole, like, oh, let's see who doesn't hit a tree on 18, even though you just played it 30 minutes ago. It's like,
which is the worst.
You actually get a feel for who the better player should be, right?
Like, what was, like, I get it on like a regular tournament. CBS has got to get off the air. We got to have a winner. Nobody's showing back up to Quail Hollow on a Monday. Okay, like I understand that, but like, what was the one last year where they just kept, it was a single hole playoff situation, but they kept playing 18, and then they decided they were going to do like 16 and 18, and it was like 30 minutes between holes, then they were like, no. We're just going to play 18 over and over and over again. Then you're watching them walk up and down the thing, and it's like, oh my, can we just let them tie? Just give them both the check. We're done.
I think it was, I don't remember the course or the tournament, but I think it was Harris English and Patrick Cantlay.
Yes.
That's Cantlay, I think, won that, and I think English was the second. But yeah, they just like 18, 17, 18, 16, 17. It was like 7 or 8 holes, I think, and it finally ended when they were playing simple. Like they were easy holes to make par on, so they just kept going over and over and over and over. But 18, a full 18 actually gives you a chance to see who the better player was. So
yeah, for my money, majors should be decided that way
on a Monday.
On a Monday, come back. It's a major. People are going to come back, and people are going to watch on TV. It's going to be like. Yeah, it's going to be like the NCAA tournament situation. People are going to watch on TV while they're at work. It's going to be on TV screens. People are going to watch. Just do it. Just do it.
At least for majors, that makes sense.
Yeah, the Tiger Woods Rocco Mediate one. It's been a long time now. I was getting ready to say just a couple years ago, but it wasn't.
Whoa!
And that one was fun to watch all day. I mean,
just them two. Cameras on them the whole time. Just watch them go.
Watching 2 guys play golf for high stakes, it was enjoyable. The 1970 Masters follows a similar path. He started tied for 11th after day 1, even par, right? Just a nice, good, hard day's work. He shot -4 in round 2 to go all the way to tied for 3rd and only 1 shot off the lead. In the 3rd round, he went -4 again and took a 1-shot lead into Sunday. Who did he pass for the lead? Who was his playing partner on Sunday? The former amateur from San Diego, who always had a leg up, always seemed to have an edge on him. Gene Littler was his playing partner on Sunday. Just left stuff when it comes back together at the end. On Sunday, Littler shoots -2 to Casper's 1 under to tie the event and force yet another 18-hole playoff. Yes, the Masters used to have an 18-hole playoff. I think they do 4 holes now. It's not sudden death at the Masters, I don't think. So that's at least a little bit better. This time, he has no drama at all. The playoff on Monday, he birdies the first hole to take a shot lead and then never gives it up for the rest of the event. He goes 3 under on Monday to win the playoff by 5 shots. Again, unwavering, unrelenting, just putting in work and finishing it. His third major win that day made him only one of 30 men to ever win 3 or more. And as for winning the Masters and the U.S. Open together, he's one of only 17 men that have ever won both events. It should be noted, too, when we're talking about him winning 3 majors, he never played the British Open until 1968 at the age of 37, when he was nearing the end of his competitive career. It's one of the last 3 seasons that he notched a win during his winning streak. It should also be noted that at his first British Open appearance, he led after the second and third rounds before finishing 4th. So I don't know. Seems like the British Open suited him. I don't know how many he would have won if he played the British Open every year. There were several years in the 60s where the PGA Championship, the redheaded stepchild of majors, and the British Open were back-to-back weeks.
Ooh.
And so a lot of players kind of didn't play both.
Right.
But he did acknowledge later in life that he probably should have played the British Open before then. And he also should have focused on the majors more, like Nicklaus and Palmer and Player did. His focus was to play tournaments and earn money. Maybe, again, a product of his upbringing, not having very much, needing to grind and earn what you can. Sometimes people grow up and that's, what they continue to do. Sometimes people grow up, make some money and realize I ain't got to work no more. I'm done. Right. So he went the other way and he acknowledged maybe I should have took some weeks off, really honed in on specific courses and shot shapes for different things and gotten ready. But that's not what his focus was on. But still, 30 people ever have won 3 majors and he's one of them. And also the 7th most wins ever on tour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's obviously something to be said for the number of PGA tournaments and events you win. Like, he's 7th all time, but that's not how you get remembered. And that probably is speaking to why he is lesser remembered, especially when it comes to like the big broadcasts, right? When you're watching TV for the 4 majors, you're going to see they're going to talk about the guys who won the most majors. But so, I mean, there's nothing wrong with just winning tournament after tournament after tournament. I mean, Tiger Woods is tied for first in all-time tournaments, but he's got 15 majors, and I think he won like 13 or 14 of them in his first 10 or 12 years of being a pro. And then he had like the hiatus and the injuries and came back and won a couple afterwards. But so it's just a mindset thing, I guess. Right. But I mean, still can't take away from everything that he accomplished. While you were talking, I have some information to provide about the playoff for the Masters.
Yeah.
At least the 2022 version. From what I can tell, the Masters is the only major championship that employs sudden death to determine a winner. They play 18 and then they play 10 and they continue that until someone loses.
Well, do better, Augusta National.
I don't know what the other ones do, but apparently the Augusta Chronicle reports that the Masters is the only major that's sudden death.
You got to get off TV before 60 Minutes starts, so you can't have a proper finish.
Tick, 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 tick.
The one golfer from my lifetime that I was reminded of when researching this episode is Vijay Singh, who also has 3 majors, just like Casper does. He's 14th on the all-time win list with 34, and some of his wins don't count because he was playing in other parts of the world at the time. He wasn't playing every week on the PGA Tour. And he was like overshadowed by Tiger all of the time, or Phil all of the time. Like, we didn't get a big 3 during the most recent generation. It was like Tiger and Phil. So, it just struck me that their careers were really similar to one another.
Yeah.
That nobody just talks about them.
No, yeah, VJ's still playing. I mean,
Yeah.
he I think he might be. Is he on the Champions Tour or something now?
Yeah,
He
I
was,
think so.
but I mean, regardless, he's another one. He's like the Tim Duncan who just shows up every night, does his deal, wins a lot, and then goes home and doesn't talk about it. He just doesn't feel
Yeah.
the need to talk about it. So,
Mhm.
I mean, can't take away any of it.
Nope. I've got some final stats here, one of which is pretty incredible, but I also was hit by like everybody's like Tiger Woods is the greatest golfer of all time, but I think maybe we should redefine that as the most dominant golfer of all time, because Nicklaus and Palmer and Player and Billy Casper, even Gene Littler are contemporaries and are all high up on these lists. There's not many people that Tiger played with that are. Like, he just dominated everything and didn't leave a lot of scraps for everybody. So if you put Jack Nicklaus in that same time period, does he win more than 18 majors? Does he win 20? Right? Like, is it that he's the best ever, or is it that he just was the best relative to what he had? Obviously, generational talent, definitely, probably one of the best ever, but it's a hard question to answer. But here's some final stats about Billy Casper. He was the PGA Tour's money list leader in 1966 and 1968. There are only 16 players that have multiples of those, and only 10 have more than he does. He was the PGA Player of the Year in 1966 and 1970. Again, only 11 players have multiples, and only 4 have more than he does. And I didn't know this was a thing, but I think this is just as impressive. There's an award given called the Vardon Trophy, which is given to the lowest scoring average each year. He won in 1960, 1963, 1965, 1966, and 1968. His 5 titles for that trophy are tied for second all time, only to Tiger Woods' 9, which, credence to him being the greatest golfer of all time. He was tied with Lee Trevino, who once said about him, "When I came up, I focused on Casper. I figured he was twice as good as me, so I watched how he practiced and decided I would practice 3 times as much as him." Casper played in every Ryder Cup from 1961 to 1975, which was a total of 8. When he retired, it was the most appearances ever, and he still holds the American record for most points earned in Ryder Cup competition with 23.5. And to put a bow on this big 3 and me, big 4 story, from 1964 to 1970, Casper won 27 U.S. events, 6 more than Palmer and Player combined, and 2 more than Nicklaus. So
It's a lot of wins.
Maybe it was Casper and the big 3 instead of big 3 and me. But
put some respect on this man's name. Come on. That's hard. That's hard. I think it's interesting that you talked about Tiger's dominance, because I've heard that argument before too, but I did not know about that trophy that because there's nobody playing defense in golf, right? Like the only defense you got is with the course. And so it's literally just your ability to move around the courses that you play on. Yeah. And I would assume that Tiger's averages, like the 9 times he won those, are within the 10 to 12 year dominant run, mid 90s to mid 2000s, which means he held the lowest scoring average in at least 75% of the years that he was dominant.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, again, like maybe that speaks to there was less competition than there was in the 60s. Or you think about it as just a bad man and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, when you look at it that way, definitely just a bad dude. Just a bad dude. But the second baddest dude on that list, though, is Billy Casper.
That no one knows about. Until now.
That's right. So if you've enjoyed this episode, your job is to go tell people what's up about Billy Casper, and then come back and listen to us, some of our back catalog or a new episode that'll be coming up. And be sure to give us some of your ideas if you've got any. Hit us up on social media, and we'll be glad to do an episode for you. Until next time, though, that's what you don't know about Billy Casper.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of What You Don't Know About Sports. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please leave us a review, 5 stars only, and hit that subscribe button wherever you listen. If you have a great sports story, we want to hear about it. You can connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at WYDKAS Podcast, and on our YouTube channel at What You Don't Know About Sports Podcast. All episodes are written, recorded, and edited by us. Stay tuned for the next episode.